Well, you know, I
think God and Moses both just have enormous respect for each other.
White gladiator had that same white spear.
Look, the judges are gone. Even the Egyptian judge is impressed.
Until recently, you claimed that the earth revolved around the sun.
Hello and welcome to History Bites. I'm Rick Green. In the 1950s, a strange paranoia appeared in the US of A. Fear of communism gripped the nation, the Cold War. But this was not the first time that a fear of subversives caused paranoia and led to a witch hunt. In fact, the same kind of fear erupted in the 13th century in Languedoc or southern France. A new religious group, the Cathars, had been gaining followers by the townload. The Catholic Church was worried. These Cathar heretics had to be exposed, put on trial, and brought to justice. And if it's exposure, trials, and justice you're seeking, the best place to look is on television.
This is 2020 for March 18th, 1244. Here is Barbara Watteau.
This week, officials here in southern France concluded a 30-year struggle against a heretical enemy. The clash of ideologies is over, the Cold War is done, and the power struggle for the hearts and minds and spirits ends, leaving one superpower, the Church. The losers, the Cathars. The early 1230s, it was a time of fear and paranoia. A new ideology had taken hold in the East and was spreading across the world. An ideology that preached that our world, and everything in it, was fundamentally evil. And yet, some stood up to the Cathar threat.
The people of this great religion, even if there was only one Cathar living in Languedoc, it would be one Cathar too many. These Cathars reject worldly goods and are a threat to our capitalist way of life. And they reject money, which is a threat to the future of the church.
Well, after I took over the archbishopric, that was when we first began the Inquisitions. Inquisitioning was all new to us, and sometimes that showed.
Anthony of Toulouse, are you now or have you ever been a member of the Cathar party?
No.
Okay, please inform the committee if you do hear about any Cathars. Next.
Well, these infiltrators were devious. They tried to hide their subversive, unnatural practices. Vegetarianism. Since most of the clergy eats nothing but meat, it was clearly a challenge. Even worse, they had priests, Barbara, who were women.
After months of hearing only denials, your Inquisition grew more aggressive.
That's another no.
So you consider yourself a good Christian?
Yes I do.
As do most Cathars?
Yes, but I'm not a sinner.
Of course not. But then as a Cathar, you would believe that nothing you do from the waist down can be considered a sin, wouldn't you?
What?
So an orgy with your Cathar sisters, that would be perfectly fine, right?
My sisters are dead.
Oh, I see. Well, that's a wrinkle even I hadn't heard of.
We're working for God, Barbara, and sometimes God has to get a little tricky to get that confession.
Do you believe now, or have you ever believed, the converse of those viewpoints, that one who rejected the views that might be held by a practicing Cathar might uphold or consider other than not unfalse?
Gonorrhea, arthritis, tuberculosis, or leprosy. Well, herbal remedies, miraculous water, and healing charms may not be enough. You need the power of Patron Saints.
The Inquisitors told me that they're bringing in a real-life Cathar prisoner to hold in our dungeon.
That's so.
Yep, and Floyd the barber surgeon told me that these Cathars are duelists. So I'm just, warming myself up, so in case this heretic wants to, duel.
Barn, these Cathars aren't that kind of duelists. These fellas are religious duelists. Two sides, good and evil. Yeah, they believe that all matter is evil.
Evil? Everything? Even my lucky relic, St. Peter's pinky bone?
Heck yeah, especially that kind of thing. They think that collecting relics is abhorrent.
But it's St. Peter!
I know, Barney, I know.
So you're saying these Cathars are against the unearthing of dead saints' bodies so we people can carry around their exhumed body parts and fluids?
That's right.
Andy, those Cathars are sick.
They say that many people were swayed to name a heretic just to collect the cash bounty or to collect a portion of the property that any exposed heretic would automatically lose.
Yes, that was helpful.
What about Roger of Carcassonne?
That the guy with the big, expensive castle down by the river?
The same.
Oh, him? Oh, yeah, he's a huge Cathar. Major Cathar, yeah.
Don't pray to St. Cosmas, patron of bladder disease, when you need St. Anne for infertility. Avoid Fiacre, patron saint of hemorrhoids, if you're aching for George, the saint of syphilis.
I'll pick Joan to block.
Okay, Joan, I hear you have a new movie coming out.
That's right. I play the evil queen in the Sea Trek movie Resistance is Feudal.
Well, good luck with that. The Mongols have often been referred to as Tartars by Europeans as their hordes advance this way. Where do they get that name, Tartars?
Oh, after they kill you, they turn what's left of you into this white sauce. Supposed to be very nice with fish, which they don't have because they live in the Gobi Desert. It's no wonder they keep invading other people. They want our fish.
I'll disagree.
Of course not. They're called Tartars from the term Tartarus, the hell of Greek mythology. Circle gets a square.
Let's talk about the fight against the Cathars conspiracy.
Okay.
Your father, Simon de Montfort, led that effort. There were blacklists, imprisonments, even deaths.
Well, yeah. In fact, mainly deaths. I mean, we had to be tough. I mean, it's all very well for modern-day bleeding heart Catholics to look back on the Cathars and feel sorry for them. But, 30 years ago, we were in a struggle to preserve our way of life, to preserve the freedom of every man to believe what the church tells him to believe. We all need to know what to do in the event of an emergency. Make sure you know the sound of a Cathar alarm. This alarm signal may mean that Cathar priests are about to infiltrate your home. Keep your soul safe using the following 4 steps. 1. Duck and cover. Under a bed, a cupboard, or an altar. The devious Cathar who cannot see you cannot persuade you. 2. If enemy Cathar agents invade your home, place your fingers in your ears like so. This will prevent dangerous Cathar lies from penetrating into the inner skull. 3. Make a joyous noise unto the Lord. This will further prevent enemy propaganda from contaminating your ears and may encourage other decent, God-fearing Christians to smite the heretic menace. 4. Kick the Cathars. Don't worry, they won't kick back. Your Cathar is probably a perfect and therefore a cowardly pacifist. Fighting is not his way. If he's not a perfect, he will fight like a tiger. In that case, use torture. We had to end their religion. They were simply the cause of just too much bloodshed.
But wasn't that blood mostly their own? Pacifist perfects were slaughtered in Béziers, Carcassonne,
Well, yes,
Laval.
of course, but...
Do you think it's right, though, the methods that are being used now, putting any person, even suspected, of sympathizing with the Cathars under this Inquisition?
No, it's ridiculous. Our inquisitors are human. Occasionally, Cathar sympathizers slip through. See, my dad had the right idea in Béziers. Kill them all, let God sort it out. It's like I'm always telling the young guys, better 1,000 innocents die than one guilty heretic go free.
Which was pretty much what happened in Béziers.
Well, exactly. See, Dad was as good as his word.
But some people were uncomfortable with the ruthless persecution of the Cathars.
These Cathars, what harm is there in letting them practice their religion?
But doesn't heresy hurt everyone?
Yes, but it's only heresy if they're wrong. Well, I remember some of the great Cathar Catholic debates, and as far as I can remember, Those Cathars gave those monks everything they could handle.
Even the cross you call unholy.
The cross is a symbol of torture, glorified by the Romans.
You make torture sound like it's a bad thing. And without the threat of torture, how could we get confessions out of heretics?
You do not need the church with its torture and its taxes.
We need the church to give people forgiveness and salvation. Those kinds of things do not come free.
Stay tuned for De Montfort the Monster. The priestly class of the Cathar religion were called perfects. They lived in strict self-denial. No wealth, no meat, no sex. Being a perfect was the only way to get into heaven. But given that strict lifestyle, you gotta wonder how the Cathar religion became so popular. Well, there was a loophole. You could live your life as one of the Cathar believers, or credente, without the total self-denial. Then, when you were on your deathbed, you received a blessing that made you a perfect. Then you just spent your last few hours abstaining from sex and meat. I know that kind of denial would kill me.
Have you attended any meetings the purpose of which was to recruit heretics?
No.
Are you sure? Because a certain... Edward of Marburg says he saw you at one such meeting.
I just went to hear what they had to say. It was one meeting. I never had anything to do with them after that.
Well, these are serious charges. Consorting with heretics, not reporting them, this committee could have you blacklisted.
Blacklisted?
Yes.
It's a list we keep of people we burn at the stake until they turn black.
All we want from you is a few names.
You want me to name names?
Give us 3 names, and you can walk out of here a free man with the committee's gratitude.
Peter of Castile, Leonard of Tyrone, and Simon of Burr.
It has become a practice of many people facing the inquisitors, when forced to name names, to give us the names of people who are already dead. As though that will stop us from meting out justice. That's right, folks, this is Peter of Castile. All right, boys, next you dig up Leonard of Tyrone and then Simon of Burr. Nobody expects the Cathar Inquisition, especially not the people who are conveniently dead.
I can't wait to see the premiere of the new Law and Order series.
What, they've got another spin-off? What is there now? Law and Order Alchemist Investigation, Law and Order Ecclesiastical Unit, what now?
Let's go back to 1209. Bezier. Your father was involved there? Did the church go too far? Archbishop Arnold Amore ordering his army to kill them all. God will know his own.
Well, it shows he trusts God's judgment.
But it meant 20,000 citizens were murdered.
No, hold on. Is it murder when you burn heretics at the stake?
Of course not, but these people weren't all heretics. Many among those 20,000 were women and children.
Barbara, our guys could have interviewed every person, found out who was a heretic, who was a heretic supporter, and who was, whatever, innocent. But the fact is that would have taken time. We had other cities to siege and burn.
The term Cathar is believed to have come from the Greek word kathari, which means pure. It makes sense, as the Cathars did try to avoid many of the impurities of this wicked world. But there are some who claim the name is derived from a 12th century German term relating to cats, and a particular practice that they claimed the Cathars engaged in. And it wasn't pure at all.
Are you now, or have you ever been a member of the Cathar religion?
No, sir, I have not.
Have you ever kissed the anus of a cat?
What?
It's a simple question, sir. Have you ever indulged in the Cathar ritual of the obscene kiss?
No, I have not. I have never even...
Never?
No.
But do you own a cat?
Yeah, sure, I own a cat, a house pet. I don't think that's any...
And do you love this house pet?
Yeah, I love the cat, but only in a way one might like a cat.
Have you ever kissed this cat that you admit to loving?
Yeah, but...
Butt! You kissed its butt!
No way. No, a little pick on the nose, nothing more than that.
Well, Andy, I got the whole place ready for the Cathar prisoner.
I even locked up the cats, just in case.
Well, that's good thinking, Barn.
Have you ever kissed the anus of a cat?
Oh, yes. Many times.
So you admit to being a Cathar?
What's a Cathar? Actually, the Cathars were accused of all sorts of ridiculous beliefs and disgusting practices. It was just crude propaganda designed to discredit them. And sadly, it often worked, because in medieval France, people believed almost anything.
Bad news for parents trying to give their child an edge in their careers. For centuries, many believed that if a woman was on top of her husband, the resulting baby would grow up to be a bishop. Well, in a new study, statistics prove this just isn't true.
Let me get this straight. These Cathars believe the only good place in the whole universe is in this spirit world.
That's right, Barn, and they reckon the only way they can get there is to become a perfect.
Well, that's going to be pretty tough on me, Andy. I mean, most days it's hard for me to get my boots on the right feet.
Barney, a perfect is what they call a priest.
Perfect. I thought these boys are supposed to be humble.
Well, I think it's because they live lives of self-denial. No meat, no material possessions, no contact with the opposite sex.
I think they should be called the perfectly boring. I mean, after all,
no meat.
Sheriff, here's the Cathar we'll be needing you to keep locked up for a while.
Aunt Bea?
How come we never snuggle anymore?
Sorry, Peg. Snuggling's against my religion.
Ow, it's not adultery if you're married.
Wrong, Peg. I joined the Cathars. I'm a perfect. It means I've given up sex.
Oh, really? And did you know the Cathars also give up meat?
What? Since when?
And Bud told me Cathars have to kiss a cat's tush.
That's just a rumor Bud started when the priest caught him in the barn.
When battling the Cathars didn't stop their religion from spreading through medieval France, the church switched tactics. Trials. The first members of the Pope's heresy tribunal were special legates with wide prosecutorial powers. They roamed the countryside in search of heretics. Alas, many of these prosecutors turned out to be crazed sociopaths who sent thousands of alleged heretics to death, often the same day they were accused. To bring order to chaos, the Pope then turned to the Dominican monks, men he knew could conduct the Inquisitions as meticulous, organized sociopaths.
Even though they were on the side of unthinkable evil and we were on the side of absolute good, in a way we were both doing our jobs. So there have been victories like in Bram where Dad showed compassion for his enemies.
Simon Sr. sieged the city of Bram for what he called a quickie. Just 3 days. The Bremetonians surrendered, and as the defenders emerged, Simon spared them. He just let them go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, after he gouged out their eyes and cut off their noses and upper lips. I mean, you got to do something to show everyone, that we won and you lost. But, like I said, Dad really liked those guys. You know what? He even left the guy at the front of the line with one eye so they wouldn't all be just bumping into trees and stuff.
This was your father's idea of mercy?
Now, you see, when you start to say your enemy is people, just like you, it's really tough. It's much easier to fight some nameless, faceless opponent, so that's what we turned them into.
Even if you did cut off the majority of their faces, they still had names.
Yeah, I suppose, but without eyes or noses, you really couldn't tell them apart. Hey, how could you do such a thing like this?
Oh, Andy, with all the changes in the church lately, a good Christian woman can't get near an altar or a conclave or schools. And these Cathars, well,
Go ahead, Aunt Bea. I'm sure we've heard worse.
Well, they treat women as equals.
They do what? Lou doesn't know about this Cathar stuff, does she?
Barn. Now, Aunt Bea, if you become one of these Cathar perfects, you're giving up more than you think. Then you can't attend any of them fancy churches now.
Oh, but Andy, you know I love sitting in a cathedral.
I don't know if these Cathars had the guts to tell you, but if you want to be Little Miss Perfect, well, there will be no associating with women. I mean men. You know, the opposite, S-E-X.
But Andy, they treat me as an equal.
Now, Aunt Bea, I am no religious expert. I leave that to the torturers. But if God didn't want you to be a subservient, second-class citizen, why would he have gone to all the trouble to make you a woman?
When the siege of Montségur was over, and the Cathars and their supporters surrendered, did you interrogate the survivors?
Well, of course, except for the bigwigs, the perfect. I mean, I gave them every opportunity to renounce their beliefs and say, you know what, I'm not perfect. But they wouldn't do it. And you know, with me, it's my way or the highway.
The highway?
Yes, the high temperature way. Sizzle, crackle.
Is it true that the perfect went peacefully into the fire, singing hymns?
Yeah, it's funny. To us, they're heretics, so we have to condemn them to the flames of hell. And to them, this evil material world is essentially hell. So really, it worked out well for everyone involved.
There are many who believe that if the Cathars had not been crushed, the Renaissance might have started then and there. The tolerance, artistic pursuits, and the open minds of the Cathars were exactly the qualities that led to the Renaissance 2 centuries later. Instead, the Cathar legacy would be the Inquisition. Pope Gregory's inquisitors would have successors in different parts of Europe for the next 600 years. Apparently, the meek don't always inherit the earth. When the last perfect was sent to the stake in 1321, the Cathars were but a footnote in history, and history bites and burns.
This Cathar enlightened, tolerant attitude, it's dangerous. No, thank you.
But didn't this enlightened attitude lead to a peaceful coexistence between Jews, Muslims, and Christians?
Yes, exactly. And besides, these so-called enlightened individuals banned a lot of our great holiday traditions.
Such as?
Strike the Jew. When I was a kid in Toulouse, we played Strike the Jew every Easter, batting the town Jews around in the square. If the Cathars are so enlightened, then why would they ban a great holiday tradition like Strike the Jew?